Vandana, coming to you now, what do you think should be the way forward? Because it's not just India. We understand the entire world, especially if we look at Boeing. Boeing is also very closely look at what this investigation will bring to the fore. Because traveling by air is not something it used to be almost 15 years back. There are lakhs of people at any given point of time using one aircraft or the other.
Absolutely. So all the more reason that the dots are all joined, that this investigation does a thorough probe here, and that it goes deep into the whys and hows that I spoke about. And once the dots are joined, the report is made public. And whoever is accountable, whoever is responsible, whichever stakeholder it is held accountable for that, and they have to give the answers, not just answers to their own company, but to the entire global public here, not just to the ones who have died and or whose families are still in mourning and waiting for a closure, but to the entire public. So I do believe that the dots have to be joined. The sequential, analysis, the deeper investigation of all of this has to take place. And yes, at 625 feet, what can the pilots do?
Right.
Except try their best to take it to a climb where they could not manage it. And then they were doomed. So, yes, we need to join the dots, be systematic, come out with a thorough investigation, and we need to get deeper into it. And day by day, or at least on a weekly basis, we need updates here which are going deeper into what exactly happened inside the cockpit, what was the mechanical, conundrum behind it. Was there an electrical software malfunction of the FedEx? Was there a FedEx miscommand over here?
Right.
What was it? What was, because the switches have metal gears to it, as rightfully said. You can't just bump it off. You can't just push it off and on like that, like a light switch. So what was it? Over to you.
Right, Vandana. Saurabh, coming to you now, what do you think should be the way forward? And do you also think, if need be, questions definitely should be asked of Boeing? Boeing actually should come out with a statement with regards to what they are doing, because this is not the first time we are seeing talks around the fuel switches in Boeing.
100%. It is very easy for any investigator to put the blame on the pilot because the pilots are not there to defend themselves. Commanding a fuel control switch, it's a command switch, you have to do it manually. The Boeing has to answer, was there an engine failure immediately on the departure which prompted the pilot to recycle both the fuel control switches, commanded off, commanded on? Was there something else? The AI, or is the AIB under pressure from Boeing not to reveal? Why this report is so sketchy? And one line that they are not even saying that pilots were doing all these things. It says the EAFR, the flight recorder timing at so and so time, the fuel control switches was commanded, transition to off, then to run. Naturally, pilot will not do it at the takeoff. They are at the time of the takeoff, they are looking out, pilot monitoring, looking at the instrument, and they are in the phase from ground to airborne. At that point of time, only thing which I can see is in case there is a dual engine failure, which the Boeing has to answer. There's a time when the pilot has to manually put the off and back to on, basically to relight the engine. And that is what the only when you have a dual engine failure, when it is both switches to off and the on to relight. Otherwise, no sane pilot will do it like this, and that too on a takeoff roll. So yes, the answers, the questions will be, a Boeing has to come out with a statement. AIB has to have some more details of the crash, this preliminary investigation report, which is, I find it's very, very sketchy, not revealing other CVR, they record the audio of the pilot. What happened after this says, why did you switch off? It said, I didn't do it. Thereafter, naturally, they can't have mom.
Right.
They have to have conversation continuously going on in the cockpit till the time they gave the Mayday call. So naturally, it was commanded off and on again. Primarily, the Boeing has to answer, was the engine failure immediately on the takeoff, dual engine failure, which led the pilots to do this commanded immediately back off to on. So this is, Boeing has to come out, and there has to be some dig deeper.
Right.
What Vandana ji said, the dots have to be connected, because as of now it is very, very sketchy, and this is wrong to blame put the blame directly on the pilots, and they, without what Captain Thomas had read earlier, unless proven guilty, everybody's innocence or innocent.
Right. Let's also throw light exactly on what's happening at the moment. The AI 717 crash, the initial report is now out. The focus now is on the fuel switch transition. Many questions. What did the FAA flag in its 2018 Special Airworthiness Bulletin? Warned of the potential disengagement of the fuel locking feature. That is something that the US watchdog, the aviation watchdog, had pointed out way back in 2018. What triggered the bulletin? That is also something which needs to be questioned. Fuel switches installed without any kind of safety lock. That is why we did see why the FAA came out with that bulletin. Who raised the alarm? The airline operator sent in various reports. Names were not given out. But was there any action that was being taken? That's also a big question. Is the FAA bulletin linked to the AI 171 crash? That's a big question. The answer is there is a possibility that this was an issue which was known way back in 2018 and it is once again resurfacing. And this resurfaced in the cockpit of the fateful Air India flight 171. So that's something which at the moment is being looked at. My colleague Nagarjun Dwarkanath with me on the story. Nagarjun, questions galore. A lot of people are now asking these very basic questions. And also one of the things that is being asked, when this was something which was flagged off by the FAA, that is the US aviation watchdog, was there any action taken by Boeing with regards to the fuel switches?
Well, there was key recommendations given as well that before you take off, just check if the FCS, that is the fuel control system, is in the locked position. And if it's moving without any external input from run to cut off or cut off to run, which means the lock is broken and hence it has to be replaced. And this was the advisory or the recommendations given out by FAA and Boeing, but this was pertaining to 737. But certain the same FCS was used in 787 and other 767, 757 of Boeing aircraft as well. And hence the advisory applied to all of them, or the recommendation applied to every make of the aircraft and not just 737. This was not a mandatory because in 2023, as per the initial report, preliminary report, the FCS was replaced, and since then there was no malfunctioning reported as well. The thrust levers were changed recently, but that also because of some other issue. So in this Boeing 787, at least in the preliminary report, they seem to say that we didn't find any previous historical evidence to doubt the FCS was malfunctioning.
Right.
Not to say that it has not malfunctioned now, but there was no prehistory to it.
Thank you, Nagarjun Dwarkanath, Vanna Singh, Captain Saurabh Bhatnagar for joining me on this show. That's all the time we have on the bulletin. Thank you for watching India Today. For more news and updates, you can log on to indiatoday.in. You can even download the app.